Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Kindness Values Jam Deep Dive conversation. And what a wonderful topic for us to explore. And welcome everybody that's here on the call, and to those of you that are catching up afterwards if you were not able to join us. I'm going to start with a story actually going back to last year. So this is in 2023, in January, really close to the beginning of the year. I had a values jam one-to-one session with a guy called Dr. Alan Zimmerman. And we drew the card as we do in these values jam guest sessions at random. And Alan chose the card kindness. And we had a wonderful conversation. And afterwards, he said to me, I need to introduce you to somebody. There is a lady called Margaret Pedersen who created a kindness community initiative when she was in her 80s. And it was a tremendous success, and I think you'd be interested in that. So I made contact with Margaret through her daughter, Phoebe. And as I knew in January that there was going to be a Kindness Values Jam last year in November, I thought it would be a really cool idea to invite them both to join the conversation, which we did, and they joined. Sadly, since then, Margaret has left us, and I contacted Phoebe to ask if she felt that it would be appropriate for us to remember Margaret at this year's call because she's not able to be with us. And Phoebe was very pleased for that to be the case and has sent me an email that I'd like to share with you. So I'm just going to read it if that's okay. Alan, I'm not going to be able to join the Values Jam this week, and I regret that. Please bring a message to the group from Margaret that she wrote at age 100, see below,
Wow.
and share it with them. The group in Glenwood is still active, and this fall is working with 550 students who are developing and presenting Be the Nice Kid presentations. Kindness is personal and local. What works for one area will be different than what works for another. And so now these are Margaret's words. Be kind started with an idea and enthusiasm. Beginning with a dozen old people, the emphasis on kindness has worked its way into the fibre of our county. Be kind is not a program. It's not a prescription, hardly even a plan. It is a perspective, a way of being, a way of seeing all the way to the widening horizon of vibrant possibilities for our community. Be kind is about people and how we choose to treat one another. I choose to live by the words of the ancient scriptures. Let us consider how to stir one another up to love and good works, encouraging one another. I choose to grow in kindness and to encourage others to do the same. I choose to ask the question, not what can I get from this person, but what can I give this person? Be kind promotes quality relationships between people, ultimately for the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren of our county. Be kind, just try it. We will. So that was written by Margaret from Glenwood, Polk County, Minnesota, on November the 12th, 2021, when she was 100. And what Phoebe signs off with is, I have decided to create a website with Margaret's vision, its implementation, and its spirit. I will let you know when it is complete, as I'm getting some pieces copyrighted before I put them into the public domain. Wishing you a successful event. I will be with you in spirit. So I know some of you on this call attach a lot of importance to your faith. And so could I just ask that you spend 30 seconds, eyes closed, just reflecting on that message from Margaret and going wherever you would like to go to be really close to kindness. Thank you. Any thoughts, observations, comments, questions about the note from Phoebe or Margaret's words?
Just if it's possible, I would like to have the link of the website when you will be online, because I found this message hopeful, wonderful, really, really wonderful. It touched my heart.
Yeah, well, I'm going to suggest that this becomes involved with Kindness Worldwide and the World Kindness Movement in some way. So for sure. And then also in the chat, I've put the Values Jam from last year. That's the video. And in it, there is a video that Margaret had pre-produced. And so it's of her with her words. So you might enjoy that.
Hello,
She
and
she al-
welcome to this.
she
Well, I
also
just clicked this. I can have it on my other monitor when we're off, and I can actually able to see it. So that was you speaking.
she also recommends a book called Congratulations, by the Way, by George Sanders. And this is at a university, and he's basically giving the students a valedictory message, but at the same time, reminding them that the most important thing they can remember is to be kind. So you might like to look up either of those links. But Christina, yes, the website, when it goes live, we'll be distributing that so everybody can join in. Any other thoughts or comments before we move on? Jenny?
Well, I had an interesting download, I guess, when those 30 seconds, and it kind of unexpected. Oftentimes, we talk about kindness on a global scale, different continents, different countries, spreading the light and the message to. But the download that I got, always remember to be kind to the people within the confines of your own home. In other words, it's not always out there. It's like the people you're closest, the people you love the most. Don't forget them and show the same kindness that you would as you're teaching, preaching, sharing globally or whatever, but to do it right here and right now also. Don't forget that. So I thought that was an interesting download. I
Yeah.
didn't even, yeah.
Yeah. And I've got something to come back to you on that, Elia, but let's hear from Jenny. You were going to say something?
Yeah, I had the great fortune of being on that call and getting to meet Margaret and Phoebe last year. And it just, such the beauty of what an extraordinary example she was and continues to be for creating a legacy of kindness. And that legacy is going to continue and ripple, even if she hadn't started a movement, but just in the way that she was living her life, it was going to continue to ripple on through her family and people that she'd interacted with. But with the movement that she started and with her family, Phoebe and her family starting this website and Alan, you sharing about her now that she's passed and those beautiful words, it's going to continue to inspire endlessly, transcending generations. And there's so much beauty in that, and we need that so desperately, and those examples.
Thanks, Jenny. Colin, anything from you?
Yeah, the only thing I'd pick up on is what Jenny just said, which is kindness. The way she described it is that the kindness of Margaret was the way she was, her being, not the words, but the way she showed up. So I think it's a starting inside job, how we show up, and people know we're kind. We don't have to tell them we're kind. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
And my thought was sparked initially by Elia, but then there's something that Jenny and Colin have both referenced as well. So this is, Elia was talking about shining the kindness light where sometimes maybe we forget to shine it. And I think one of those corners are those people who have passed. And it seems to me that generally, when somebody leaves us, they're kind of almost deleted, which is such a waste and a shame. And so that was really what prompted me to consider remembering Margaret today, because even though she's not with us, she can still have a profound impact, not only on us, but beyond. And so I think that there is something coming through for me, and I don't know whether it's something that you guys relate to as well, to be kinder to those people that are no longer with us because they're still beautiful and valuable. Okay, so the kindness values jam today. I have a question for us as a group. I'd just like to remind you of the style of a values jam because it's slightly different from a normal conversation. The first thing is please regard any silence as your friend. In a normal conversation, we're encouraged to fill all the space all of the time. In a values jam, don't feel that pressure. Silence is absolutely fine. One person to speak at a time, please. And also be more considered when you're going to say something. So again, in our day-to-day conversations, we're probably encouraged to respond as quickly as we can before somebody else gets in there. But with a values jam, no, don't do that. If you hear something, your first reaction is an emotion, probably of some sort, but then wonder what that emotion is and why it's come up. And then when you're ready to say something, choose your time and share it. The idea is for us as a group to develop the collective think rather than each of us just put forward our individual opinions and points of view. So the question I have to kick us off, and like I said, there can be silence for quite some time once the question has been completed. That is absolutely fine. And then when anybody is ready, then we can start. The question is, how can all of the people and organizations that are doing great work in the area of kindness create more impact together than they can individually?
The words that come to mind, Alan, are abundance versus scarcity mentality. If there's an abundance mentality, uniting forces with other organizations and collectively growing the kindness tidal wave that's hopefully will sweep this earth is pretty powerful. If we're coming from a scarcity mentality, it's like, well, how can I promote my organization faster or better than the one next to it? So it becomes a competition versus a collaboration. So to me, that's where it starts from. If I'm in abundance, I don't need to compete with anybody. Let's collaborate, and your success, Colin, and your success, Jenny, and your success, Christina, and your success, Alan, doesn't diminish my success. It's just more. That's all. So if we do that, I think that's as a foundational component.
What arises for me is the work of Josta Block from the organization Buurtzorg, and he transformed the nursing of people in care in the communities by the whole way he set the organization up. And it's been a huge success. Very little overheads, but a huge success in the community, including less medication needed, less time needed to be in care. But what he did is he wrote a book or a sort of a blueprint of what he'd done. And then he went and talked to all of his competitors and shared it with them and said, I'm prepared to help you grow your organization within these values, if you like, because even though I may not grow my organization anymore because of it, he was taking, as you said, this, abundance mindset, but also looking out to improve the quality of care for the patients. That was the bigger one, bigger than the monetary side or the growth side. So thank you.
A resounding amen to everything I've heard so far. The things that came to mind, as Ely mentioned about with the abundance mentality and collaborating. So I love, and I know Alan is a great collaborator. I love collaborating with people, and kind of jokingly one time came up with partners in kind. It's so much better to be partners in kind than it is partners in crime. And so, looking for opportunities to collaborate, looking for opportunities to shine the light on each other and what others are doing. And then also, and Alan, I know you're also fabulous at this, but introducing people, looking for ways that we can connect each other. And it's, connecting, it's not only fun to do, but, when you see opportunities to connect people, you kind of get to amplify in a really easy way, your impact, because then you can either maybe collaborate with them, or you can kind of sit back and watch what magic might unfold with this new connection. And you get to kind of enjoy that. So those are the things that I think about, in collaborating, looking at the overall, what is the intent? I mean, when we're in organizations that profess how we want to improve and increase kindness around the world, and yet we are holding it tightly and we don't want to, kind of share that, it's kind of hard to amplify your message of kindness if you're not kind in the way that you are dealing with others who you maybe have a different message than you might have. But, if there's the jealousies or kind of holding things tightly, so those are some of the thoughts that came immediately to me. Thank you.
And Jenny, I've got a recent example of introductions, and who knows where this might go. But since the event in Palermo, I had a call with Gordon Rossler, and on that call, he just mentioned the importance of media. And we had a brief conversation about just exploring the responsibility of media. Because if you think, if you accept, and this is what we talked about, if you accept that in the world, 50% of stuff that's happening is pretty good and 50% of stuff that's happening is not so good, right? Let's just assume that it's an even split. But then when we read the newspapers, for instance, it's certainly not 50-50. It's mostly focused on criticism and the bad things that are happening. So we kind of just touched on, I wonder what it would look like if there was a media company that explicitly shared good news and kindness. And then a few days later, I had another call with another guy who's a venture capitalist, and we had a very similar conversation that just cropped up. And so yesterday I introduced the two of them, because at worst, they're going to have an interesting conversation because they're both interested in the topic. And at best, who knows, a media company might come out of it. So you've just got to trust that the best will come, and sometimes it will, and sometimes it won't.
It's a tough question, and I have some problem to answer, not because I don't have any idea in my mind, but because to express what I'm thinking in Italian in English is quite difficult to me, but I will try. In my experience in the last 14 years is that there are two words which are very important. One has been told is sharing, and the other one is involving. So when you do something for the good for others, I think that we all are moved by the good intention to help the others. But the problem is that we do this in a context where usually the individual success is recognized, not the group success. So this may, if you are not enough strong, and if you don't have this value that Colin said before, it may be that you work for yourself, but not in terms for the others to help others, but for your ego. And I think the first thing you have to do is really sharing. And by involving, we discovered at the beginning when we decide what we do, what we are the first organization, the second organization in Italy, in Europe, who is interested in kindness, what we do, because what we do not have nothing. I just wrote a small booklet because I wanted to understand myself where I wanted to go. And we discovered that the first thing to do was to involve media. So we spent 5 years just communication. We communicate for 5 years. We do project, but we try to spread kindness as something really important for the society. It's the thing that make difference, because kindness is made by the relationship. Sorry, it's the cat. It's made by the relationship between people, how the people they relate together. So, for example, when we start, we did an event for the 13th November, and people were reading the newspaper and looking after us, and what they were saying, but they are crazy. They are talking about kindness. What is kindness? Why kindness? There are more important issues in the world than kindness. Peace, love, all these things. But we continue. And last year, but not only because of us, also the Italian movement did a lot of things. And last year in Italy, there were 3,000 events.
3,000?
3,000 events. I don't know if this year, talking about kindness. And now there are, I don't know how many organizations in Italy that they are trying to spread kindness. So there is a lot of people that are moving because they understood that is important, because the press was talking about it, and they want to be part. But because they recognize that if you spread kindness, if you adopt kindness as a lifestyle, you feel better. So this is my experience. I wanted to share.
Thank you, Christina. And I'd just like to welcome Christy She-Dragon, who's joined us. And Christy, what we're doing is we've asked the question, how can all of the people and organizations that are doing great work out there in the area of kindness create more positive impact by doing that together rather than independently? So when you're ready, when you've kind of got into the conversation, please feel free to contribute. And the other thing to mention is that it's not like a normal conversation, and silence is our friend. If nobody's got anything to say for a few seconds or more than a few, that's absolutely fine. And when you're ready, you're ready.
Got it. Thanks.
If I could just pick up on what Christina was sharing, the thoughts that come to mind are, and I love the fact that she's gone through the media, essentially creating awareness, first of all, so people don't understand what is kindness and all the things that are attributed to it. And then I think you can start to sense a shift towards understanding, people wanting to know even more about it, and then just starting to do something with it, because more and more people are talking about it, and therefore, then you start to get that shift, that change. And what I was reminded of, or what came to mind, was Reuters, the comms agent organization. This is some time ago. They felt that they were very much like a huge oil tanker, and it was very difficult for them to change, because it would take ages for a tanker to turn in another direction. So what they initiated was much, in a metaphorical way, smaller boats that were much more easy to turn and to take off in new directions, at the same time continuing to try and move the tanker. So I think, it's those small things. Just one other point is about the difference I see between radiating a light and shining a light. And for me, shining a light is something that's coming from me to tell you, rather than the radiating of the light, which is me showing up as me, and that draws people towards. And I think the more we can radiate the kindness light, or radiate kindness, and I think that's part of also what Margaret was doing. She radiated kindness. People who met her would have gone, this is kindness. So that's my thoughts now. Thank you.
Colin, you've put an image into my head. I tend to get pictures rather than words, and I can see the oil tanker, and I can see a flotilla, and it's the flotilla that you're talking about. So it's not trying to impose some sort of firm structure around this, but at the same time, allowing those small boats to feel part of something bigger, even though they have the freedom within that to do their own thing according to their own boat.
Oh, and I also liked the emphasis on radiating, kindness, and to me, it's a way of it's a way of being, instead of, and that's part of the reason that my passion project, I call it kindness from the heart, is not from the head of trying to think about. I mean, it's important to think about it and be aware and look for opportunities for kindness and understand why it's important and why it can help others and how it can help ourselves and all of that. But, if we can, work to embody it, so it's not even such a conscious decision about the way we're going to respond to somebody, it just comes naturally. I think it's and I think we need to kind of meet people where they are, because some people maybe not really understand kindness or it's important. Some people maybe are a little further along the contingent, but I think it's a progression that we can all work to make. And I just love that image of radiating, because it's like coming from the heart. It's coming from, can almost see like Ellen, you talked about images, right? Almost like an aura around someone of just radiating that light of kindness. And then I think people are drawn to that. And even if they don't maybe understand it necessarily, maybe want some of that or more of that in their lives. So I love that radiate. Thank you.
Because I have to go in a couple of minutes, and I apologize for that. I think what Jenny just shared, and Colin too, in my experience anyways, that happy people radiate that happiness, and happy people perform acts of kindness all the time, and it's second nature. They don't think about it, but it does contribute to their happiness. So when you come from the heart, and there's a big disconnect between the mind and the heart, unfortunately. And when I work with people, I'm always like, your mindset is important. I'm not doubting that, but where's your heart set? And when you live your life in alignment with where your heart is set, and of course that's your purpose. When you're in alignment with your heart set, that's your purpose. And when you live in alignment with that, magical things happen. You become more attractive as a human being, and people are attracted to that positivity, that happiness, that kindness, that love that emanates from your aura, as Jane said, or just your countenance, I guess. So thank you for having me here for a short time. I wish I could stay longer, but I'm got another call so it's my first week back after being in Europe for 2 months, and it's pretty crazy week this week. But I'm glad I got to share some time. And Colin, a pleasure to meet you. You're the only one I didn't know prior to that.
Thank you.
And
Likewise
Christy,
to meet
and
you.
Christy as well.
Oh, Christy, yes. I would like to hear from Christy before I leave, but
Well, maybe we can do that. Christy, before Elia goes, perhaps you could give your perspective from what you've heard so far.
Okay. I apologize for being late. I'm driving, and it's kind of hard for me to, as you know, the U.S. election just happened. And I've just been thinking about how could it happen again? And I'm thinking about how we have to start from the beginning. And by that, I mean, rewrite the history books to show the truth. I just attended a table read with Vic Tan Nguyen, who wrote The Sympathizer, and they are making it into, or they have, or are in the process of making it into a series. And in the table read, the star, who is a young man from Vietnam, and he was talking about how he didn't know about re-education camp because they didn't teach that in communist Vietnam. And he only found out about it because of this. And it's like the Elon Musk, the Jeff Bezos, the Trump, those assholes who so tout the self-made man when they were given money from their parents, and don't care about the rest of society. And yet the rest, half of society thinks that these people are going to take care of them and give a shit about them. Excuse my language. I've been trying for these last 2 days not to, at least I didn't cry this time. But that's where my head is at, is that we have to, I don't know, to teach younger people better about real history.
Mm-hmm.
And not that the the Native Americans came and feasted with the Pilgrims. Bullshit.
Thank you, Christy. And I had a call yesterday with somebody in the US. And of course, we talked about the outcome of the election, and where our conversation went was partly what you've just talked about. So some anxiety or other words that you'd like to use, but also the need to find peace with yourself, because what has happened, and everybody needs to move forward in the best possible way. And to do that, you need to first be at peace with yourself, however challenging that might be. But then to Christy's point, I think the other thing, and this relates to a piece that I was reading about kindness that was saying, those people who make out that kindness is just being nice and is easy to do, I've got it completely wrong, because kindness can be the toughest thing to do sometimes. And so, to Christie's point, it's being totally unkind not to tell the truth about our history. And no matter what barriers are in the way, we all should be finding a way for that truth to be told. That's kindness at the heart. Because why would you lie to people? That's not kind.
Can I also add, I just finished reading The Bomber Mafia by Malcolm Gladwell, and that book made me cry because he talks about how napalm was first used in Japan. And the first time they used it, it killed 100,000 people. And they used it 60 more times during that war. And that wasn't enough. And then they took it to Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. And it just comes down to money. And so we have to get people to rethink money and to rethink that it's all a zero-sum game. If you get some, I get none, because I think that's where the U.S. is, especially the people who voted for Trump and the values that he espouses. Sorry, I'm still on this, so.
No, Christy, that's completely okay. That's how you're feeling. And for you to be sharing, I can't speak for everybody else, but I feel privileged to hear your raw emotion and your point of view at this time. And that's what these conversations are all about. We don't want you with a face on taking part in a polite conversation. This is far more interesting.
Christy, I'm from the US too, and I completely understand what you're sharing, and it's bringing up a lot for me that I too am trying to figure out how to deal with, and I went to sleep the night before the day of the election, purposefully not turning on the television because I couldn't quite bear it after I'd heard that there was a strong lead by Trump, and the next morning I couldn't bear to be alone to listen to the news. So I went over and checked on my mom, she'll be 96 in February, and to see how she was doing. And in the moment that I walked in with the news being on and the look on her face, and the devastation that she was feeling, and I just, that's when I broke down and went into her kitchen and just sobbed. And I came back and I said to her, this passion for kindness and all of that, it's going to be really tested a lot right now, as in trying to work through the complete ununderstanding or disbelief of how this could happen, or what people are not listening to, or lack of awareness, or just all kinds of things, and how to to get through that, and still work to build bridges, and still work to, as Colin, as you were talking about the importance of listening, I think, being so blown away that there was such a large margin in the win. How are so many people feeling so differently that I just can't fathom? And in working with my daughter, in the betrayal I think that she's feeling, and I think the importance of listening, Colin, as you specialty for you in trying to understand and understand someone's story and see, why they're where they are, and And how do we come closer together? And how do we really share, Alan, as you're talking about the importance of truth and having, genuine truth be honored when it's so hard to come by through media sources or social media or all kinds of things that are getting in the way of having. It seems like we used to be able to once at least have a shared truth, and now there's so many versions of truth that it's really hard to build those bridges and come together. But it is so important, and I think I so agree that the kindness is so much more than being nice, and it is going to test us in, even bigger ways after this past week.
I know this is easy to say when I'm not in the US, but this is a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, and I'll share it with you because it came to mind and maybe it can help. So this is it. When I despair, I remember that all through history, the way of truth and love have always won. There have been tyrants and murderers, and for a time they can seem invincible, but in the end, they always fall.
I'll top you. This is from John Kerry, who was the presidential candidate. And this was a keynote speech that he made, and he said, Trump thinks that the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth are three different things. But I do agree that truth will out. It's just whether or not people are willing to listen.
So for the remainder of our time together, can we move back to the question that was posed? I think that's been, or I hope it's been, a helpful diversion, and probably one that was needed rather than ignored. So I'm glad we did it. But the question is, and maybe it's even more of a question in a situation like the one that we've just talked about, how can all of the people and organizations like Margaret, like Jenny, like Christina, how can their excuse me, their great work in the area of kindness create a greater positive impact by them doing it together rather than independently?
I would say that we have to keep going. We can't give up. And we have to include more younger people. And it's looking like, at least, well, I think globally, that the 65 and over age group is the highest right now. And not discount that group because they were showing up in voting this year here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's because I know that in my organization, we keep saying that we need to look for new blood, which is hard to do. And we're all getting older and aging and all of that. And you would think that it gets easier, but it doesn't, because other things take up your time, and we need new blood. We need to instill the same values, the same needs, desires, passion into younger people. And our group name is Levik, and we chose flame because that's one of the few things that you can share and not have it diminish.
Mm-hmm.
Christy, will you repeat the name of your organization? Would you spell that?
Sure, it's LUAVIET, Louisville Youth Organization. Don't look at our website. It hasn't been revamped in ages. That's what I'm in the middle of doing.
Thank you.
Something
I'm
that
gonna
comes
be-
to
Sorry, go on, Colin.
Yeah, so that occurs to me. I was in an event quite recently, and as part of it was only a small group of about 10 of us, and the invitation was, without going through all the details, to sit in the chair and share your thoughts. And all through the day, I knew I wanted to sit in the chair and share, but I couldn't. The momentum for me wasn't enough yet. It didn't make sense to do it yet. Lots of people did, and the reason I mention it is he never gave us instructions, come and sit in the chair and do this. He gave us lots of different angles, different visions of it, different views of it. And then right towards the end of the day, there was something he said which went, now I know what to do. And I came and did it. And so I'm thinking that taking the question is that we're not trying to, let's say there's 10 organizations that we're talking about and 10 individuals. We're not trying to get them to be one individual, one organization, but each of them has a common thread that could be accommodated in each of them. So we're almost like a club, not quite like these words, but you understand the message. And that this is from a practical perspective, as we're sharing our stories, each of the different organizations and individuals are sharing each other's stories. So each of us is amplifying from the other ones. We make it really easy to do. And that way, we make a bigger impact without diluting our individualness. And let's say that, and again, I'm making this up, that one of them is more focused on the over 65s, another might be on the younger ones. And that's fine. So we're not trying to compete. And it takes, where we started about this with abundance, there's enough. There will be enough, because there isn't enough organizations talking about kindness. So just some things that might spark some thoughts.
And Colin, this goes back to the conversation that I mentioned earlier with Gordon Rossler. And another thing we touched on was the potential value of a kindness platform of some kind, where anybody and everybody that was doing work in this area could have their work showcased. So people had a place to go to where they could find like a smorgasbord, I think maybe, of kindness that they could just choose from according to their needs and wants and likes. Welcome, Dennis.
Thanks, Alan. Again, I apologize for being late, but I think you knew we had the friendship bench today, and I was determined to find my way here, even if it's for the last 30 minutes.
Cool. So just to not bring you right up to speed, but to let you know that we're pondering the question, how can all of the people and all of the organizations that are doing great work in the area of kindness create a more positive impact by working together rather than in isolation? So that when you're ready to say something, if you can either give me an immediate response if you're one of those extrovert types, or if you'd prefer to listen a little bit first and then dip in a little later on, then that's absolutely fine too.
Okay, my answer is yes and no. So I'm going to listen for a moment.
Great, thank you.
I have a question. Hi, Denise. I'm Christina from Switzerland. Sorry if my English is not so good. I try to do my best. And sorry for the cat, which is playing. When I was president of the World Kindness Movement, I create the platform that you are talking about. I gave everybody, every member of the movement, the opportunity to have a private area where to put their projects. So that the aim was that if we have something that collect all the project, could give us the opportunity, one, to share and maybe replicate. For example, if there is something that work very well in US, maybe can work also in Europe very well. Why do I have to think something else? But you can change by considering the culture. And the second was to collect money, fundraising. Because if I go to Coca-Cola and say I'm the World Kindness Movement, and we are 32, 40 nations, and we are all this project, maybe your company can support us. The question is, why nobody registered it? Why nobody or few people, they took their time to register. And now, if you see on the website, there is no more this section. Was cancelled. And I was thinking a lot about why. And the answer is always the same, opportunity. We sometimes have to choose between, not to choose, but we have to think about how to use our time. And maybe people, they didn't see what this platform could be for the movement. And we return to the question that you made before, why and how we can put together our energy and produce something important, not staying alone. Because we know that 3 kilos of brain with other 3 kilos, it makes 6 kilos. And it's mathematics. So it's a good to have this kind of opportunity, not to share. So it was unsuccessful. And my question is why? And I think because people, they have to choose how to use their time, and people, they prefer to use this time for local things, not for global things. That's the reason why this year I asked to create national organization, so Europe, Asia, US, because I understood that people must connect before at a local organization. So in US, people of US, organizations of US have to share together. And then those people can go to the World Kindness Movement and share their sorry, the cat. So I think that it was too soon that time in the World Kindness Movement. But I really believe that if we, for example, create Europe, World Kindness Europe, it's much more easy, because I remember when we did meetings. Sorry, see the cat. He's jealous. Nulla, vieni, amore. I remember that our big problem was connection, but not connection between human, connection, internet connection.
Ah,
So we spend much of the time, because in Africa, the connection is not good. Australia time zone is terrible. So this was the big problem. And I understood why the platform wasn't at that time useful for them. Sorry, this is just a parenthesis. Thank you. Thank you.
wow. Alan, I'd like to weigh in now, if you don't mind. I'm going to come back to kindness, because something Christina said really rings true on my end. But we've learned longer, we've been doing this Rediscover Humanity. That's been our ethos now for 13 years as of last week. And, we kept saying, we want more people to follow our lead when it comes to just doing more good in the world. And we're trying and trying and trying, and finally I got a wake up call, and this goes back a ways, where somebody said to me, I really do want to do more good, but I don't know what to do. And here we were taking it for granted all this time that, do more good. What does that mean? So I gave that person some examples. It was on a Zoom call. And then we went back and said, look, we can't do this anymore. We need to give people more of a roadmap, because if you show them how to get there and they see that it's not hard to do more good, the best example I gave to that person on the phone was, look, here's an idea just to start you off to show you how simple it is to do more good. Now, this is going to lead over to kindness in just a minute. In fact, this overlaps. I said, when we're done here, pick up the phone. Call somebody you know that you haven't spoken to for a long time. Call a senior citizen in your neighborhood who lives alone, and don't have a request, don't have a purpose. Just call to say, how are you? And then do something that's hard to do. And Colin, I got this from you. I'm going to blame this one on you. Ask them how you're doing, but then learn how to shut up and just listen. Let it flow, because you might be their only point of contact that day, and you're not asking for anything. And then when they're done talking, blame this on Colin again, dig deeper, ask a follow-up question. And what's amazing about that little episode of doing more good, you can call that kindness if you want, how that creates a ripple effect, because to see the reaction, and I've done this phone call because of a nonprofit that we work with, it's amazing. It becomes habit forming, and you just lifted their spirits in ways, and it didn't cost you anything except what, 10 minutes of time. So we ultimately went back and we said, we need to do better. I'm going to put this in the chat stream. We put together a list of things you can do to do more good. It went from an initial list of 16, and I think the thing I just put in the chat stream, it's up to over, I think it's 50 now. These are just 50 simple things that won't cost you anything, but maybe a little bit of time. And then to get into kindness, about 2 months ago, I was reading something somewhere. There's one of those moments of just silence, and you're kind of wondering about things. And the notion of kindness kept coming up. And I said, well, maybe we need to approach that the same way, because I can say, be more kind. Alan, you can say, be more, everybody on this call. But maybe people need some examples, because our point of kindness was, look, it's not so much just being kind, it's witnessing kindness and doing something with it. Now, there's a second link there I just put. We started this human kindness page and said, look, no matter where you are, if you see an example of kindness, send it to us. If you've done some kindness in some fashion, send it to us. We've now got, it's only been about a month, we got almost 36 people around the world that have sent us examples of kindness. So my argument, not an argument, my point is, I think sometimes we got to hold somebody's hand to say, we got this overcomplicated world. It isn't that complicated. Let's just go back to our fundamental humanity, be kind, share it with us, do more good. And if that ripple effect continues, wouldn't the world be a better place? I'm off my soapbox now. I just wanted to get that out.
Some great examples there. Dennis, are you, excuse me, are you aware that the World Kindness Movement has a kindness jar on their website?
I am not.
So check it out, because if those kindness stories could be, used by you in whichever way you use it, but they can also be in
Yeah.
the kindness jar, why not? You're getting two shots for one then.
No, thanks for that, because it's our job to walk the talk and to spread this kindness. Now, we're showcasing it on our site, but if I can drop it into somebody's kindness jar, absolutely.
And I don't know whether this is the universe speaking, but you're talking there about connecting with an elderly person who might be lonely.
Yeah.
I had a call with my youngest daughter. She's a Great Britain youth tennis coach. And I just said to her, what's new? And she said, oh, I've just signed up with Help the Aged to have a regular telephone conversation with an elderly person. And she said it went quite well. And I said to them, because I travel a lot with my work, I might not always be able to make the scheduled time. Is that a problem? And the person said, well, as long as you're in touch with the person that you're going to be speaking with and you rearrange a time, then that's absolutely fine. And then she said, and I was really happy with that because I want to do this so much. And do you think they might be interested to know that I'm calling them from Madrid or from Moscow or I was just thinking, what a beautiful conversation she's going to be able to have with somebody who really values being able to speak to somebody in that way.
Well, we know what an epidemic loneliness is, not just in this country. In this country, and I happen to be in your country. That's why I'm saying this country. I'm in Southampton, but it's more of an epidemic here than it is in America. But I just have to share one more thought that you triggered. My wife and I have been delivering for a nonprofit for many years. It's called Meals on Wheels. It actually started over here during the Second World War, but we've been delivering for years. We've got this route and we've been doing it, doing it. Then came the pandemic, and we couldn't. We couldn't. We had to hang the food in a wrapper on the door. We couldn't see the people
Yeah.
because they couldn't come in contact. And these are seniors that are typically alone. We realized very quickly that our Meals on Wheels deliveries, it wasn't really about the food; it was the human contact. And that became the next issue. So what we doing, what I referenced earlier, we started calling everybody on our route. Number one, to let them know the food was there, but number two, let them know that we were thinking about them because we realized in many cases we were the only human contact they had that day. There were people that remember this one lady, she would get up, put her makeup on. She was in her 90s, but she got dressed up to come to the door and she took the food and put it on a counter, but she wanted to sit down. So we allocated an extra 15 minutes of our delivery to sit at her table and just catch up on life. And she would be building this puzzle, Alan. She built puzzles a lot, but she would always save the last piece for me to put in. So my purpose was to not, and my wife was with me, is for us to show up, complete the puzzle, and you start to realize, the human need for just some level of connection. Phone call was great, but that knock on the door, that was her world every day.
Thank you. Now, Stephen, you've joined us quite recently, and but shortly we're going to move towards closing the conversation, and there's something in particular that I have in mind for that. But before we do that, perhaps you'd like to share any thoughts that you have from what you've heard so far.
Yeah, I want to appreciate Mr. Allen for the privilege to be part of this Kindness Jam. And I'm sorry that I joined pretty late. I was actually out of town, and on my way home, I remembered that the time was supposed to be 6 p.m. Nigeria time. So I joined late, very, very late. I'm so sorry that I joined this place late. And I just want to lend my voice to the conversation by Nemala and others. Sorry, not Nemala, Christina. And I had a conversation regarding the proposal that she made in the just concluded General Assembly on regional kindness movements of the various continents. And I believe that that also will foster all the organizations that are into acts of kindness, particularly within the locality and the countries and the regions, to have one common goal on driving kinder forces within our locality. And it is also good, just like yesterday I had a thought, and which I've also shared with my team in Nigeria, that there is no better time than now for us to think around celebrating those that have done rare acts of kindness within our locality, within the countries and region. And that will also help in spreading the fragrance of kindness to others who may have the intention of engaging in acts of kindness, but does not know how to go about it. Just as you have rightly stated, we have collections of kinder acts in the kindness jar on the website of the World Kindness Movement. And any visitor to that site, and particularly to the kindness jar, will see a lot of acts of kindness that people shared. And that will also be an inspiration to others to also be kind. And I believe that there is nobody that does not have the seed of kindness. Some, it can be innate. They can learn that art from others. Some you can impart. And I believe that sharing such kinder causes, kinder arts, and rare acts of kindness within our location will also help for us to have a kinder generation. And we believe that at a time like this, where the world is heavily conflicted, we need much of this to ensure that we spread the fragrance of kindness across the globe. And I want to sincerely appreciate you for this, for organizing this kindness jam. And I am very certain that we have learned a great deal. And I know that is being recorded. And we'll be pleased for us to have a recorded version so that we can also hear the previous speakers and learn more from one another. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Stephen. And you know, things sometimes are planned to be, and then they can be successful sometimes. Other times we trust in what will happen. And this is an example because Dennis and Colin, you might not know, but Stephen is actually the president of the World Kindness Movement. And it seems quite fitting that he should have the final word in a values jam about kindness. Now, for the remaining minutes that we have, the purpose of Values Jam is one, to have a beautiful conversation, two, to provoke thought, and three, for us to be encouraged to commit to action. And the timing is no accident ahead of World Kindness Day next week and World Kindness Week. So what I would like to invite you to do is share what you're encouraged to do in a very concrete, observable way next week in association with kindness. And Jenny, I'm going to put you on the spot to go first, and then we'll have Christy, and then we will go from there. So, Jenny, what are you going to do next week as a result of our conversation in celebration of World Kindness Day and World Kindness Week?
Prior to the conversation, I had been thinking about sharing different posts about kindness, and particularly around, my experience in Palermo, Italy, for World Kindness Movement General Assembly. In addition to that, with the elections that have just taken place here in the U.S., I want to see where I can reach out to kind of both sides of the aisle. Seeing a neighbor that had a Harris flag up, and just, I don't know them, but I want to stop in and just say, I understand the hurt because I'm in that space with you. And then also reaching out to people that voted differently than me and try to seek for understanding. So I think that's, if I don't do that now, when it's so fresh, I'm afraid of just kind of letting it go by the wayside.
Good for you.
A personal challenge.
As they say in some parts of the US, go girl.
They say that, Alan, do they?
I've heard it. So, Christy, what about you? What are you encouraged to do next week?
I think that you couldn't see my text, but I'm in this public space, so I can't really talk.
Oh, sorry, I can't really hear.
Yeah, she wrote in the chat, Alan, that she's in a
Oh,
public space and can't talk.
great. Thank you. Okay,
Okay.
fair enough. So, Christina, what about you? You're on mute at the moment.
Okay. I think that this year is a very full day here, full week, because we have organized many, many things. As I told you this afternoon, I was in the schools with this 2 times 100 young ladies and young boys talking about friendship, about kindness. And Saturday, we will have one day all devoted to kindness. With starting, we will donate 8 hour well-being with holistic, come si dice, terapeuti, okay, and then we will finish with a party, a kindness party, because we are closing a summer section of our project. Then next week, the 13th, I have been invited by the organization that grouping all hospitals. We organize together because we believe that it's important to have kindness in hospitals. So we organize a one day for children, for adults, for patients, to talk about kindness. And in the evening, we will talk about kindness and economy. I will be one of the relator, and then there will be another speaker who is a professor in economics, and we will talk about this, and then we will have parties. And then Saturday, we will have a festival of kindness in Milan, and we will talk about dreams, but not the dream that we have during the night, but how our personal dream becomes true. And then we will have a party. So I do a lot of things very, and I can really, there is an amazing involving of press, media, because they are really, this evening when I coming home, there were a journalist from a TV there. She's called, I want to make an interview because I want to know more about kindness. And, you know, we are a so small country, but there are many, many people that are really interested in this. And so this made me happy. This made me happy.
Wow, you're going to be a busy lady next week, aren't you?
I need 1 week's holidays then. Very happy.
So Dennis, what about you? From the conversation that you've managed to be part of, what are you encouraged to do next week as part of World Kindness Day and World Kindness Week?
I'm not
Sorry.
going to wait. I'm not going to wait till next week, Alan. I think, you've kind of jarred my preserves, as they say, into thinking, the one thing we are capable of doing based on what I do for a living with 360 Nation is amplifying the visibility of good stuff. Well, what we're talking about is good stuff. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to go to the kindness store, but I'm going to probe around the World Kindness site and see how much we can do to raise the visibility of everyone around the world doing something next week. So we're going to start that right now. The second thing I've just done, I've reached out to everybody in this call, to connect, because it starts with a village like this of people. And so many people say to me, when you're trying to do things like rediscover humanity, it's bigger than all of us. You can't do it. Why bother? I think we can all create those ripples, just one phone call at a time, one ripple at a time. And then you see the results, and suddenly somebody else sees what you're doing and they join in. So we're going to attack this 2 different ways. And I'm so glad I had the time to show up today, because you've given me a lot of energy of things to do before the Kindness Day even arrives.
Brilliant, thank you. And Stephen, I know you're not allowed to say, well, I'm just going to carry on running my World Kindness movement next week. What is there something specific, concrete that you're personally going to be doing next week?
Yeah. For me, I have already started working to connect with some TV stations and radio. And I got some cards from kindness worldwide regarding kindness values and others, which have already started spreading across Nigeria. I've already shared in my states and in other parts of Nigeria, particularly in Lagos and in Benin City, where I currently reside. And just to create awareness about the values of World Kindness Movement, particularly the World Kindness Day, November 13 event. And I've also reached out to some TV and radio stations. And I am very convinced that by 13th of November, I will be very much engaged with granting interviews, talking about what the movement is about. And beyond that, I also intend to go to schools, particularly the public schools, with my team to share about the concept of kindness, believing that when you catch them young, they will grow to live and imbibe the culture of kindness. So that is part of our intendment, just to ensure that that consciousness is within everyone. And that is also the essence why the card is also very important, which I've shared and people have read, some have read, and they have made comments. And they appreciated that I gave them that card, and they believe that they will act on the card and on that values for the end to also be part of to also spread acts of kindness. So that is what I intend to do in my own personal capacity. And beyond that, the president of the World Kindness Initiative is also working things out with his team in Lagos. And also Mr. Yomi, who is the leader of Kindness Gate in Nigeria, is also working things out in Lagos. So it's going to be a lot of activities within particularly the two states, but it's only in the northern parts. I've not been able to reach one of our colleagues in the northern part of Nigeria to also get extract information regarding what she intends to do during the 13th of November and the Kindness Week. So I am very certain that they may also have one or two things in stock to also spread the art of kindness within that part of the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. And Colin.
Yeah, thank you. I think the most kind thing I can do at the moment is building on what I've been doing today, what Jenny highlighted, as in talking to people who might need to be heard because of what's going on in the world at this moment. What I would add, just one other thing, is how do you get these people to get together? I think it's about trust. I think there isn't enough trust between those organizations yet. And an example, I know Dennis very well, and if you'd asked me before I met Dennis, would I be doing something with 360? Maybe, maybe not. I'll be looking after my own interest. What can I get? But having met Dennis and built a relationship with him, if Dennis said, could you do, 100% I would do it. Wouldn't think twice about it. So yeah, and thank you for this opportunity to meet you again and also some of your colleagues and friends. So it's been enjoyable. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. Mine for next week is to start actively sharing the work that I launched in Palermo, which is around kindnetics. This is an invented word, a play on kinetics, and it is the study of acts of kindness and the social energy created, and also the kindness equation. And like Christina mentioned, there was a lot of interest in Italy. I did 2 interviews with Italian TV channels, and they seemed to be just very enthusiastic about this concept of a kindness equation. So that's what I'm going to be doing some of that day. But I want to use Colin's comments as a segue. because the final words today, I hadn't planned this, but it's just happened, so will be from Margaret Pedersen. And if you remember in her words, there was this sentence: I choose to ask the question, not what can I get from this person, but what can I give this person? So thank you so much, everybody, for joining this Kindness Values Jam. I hope to see you on future occasions. These happen virtually every month, and I'm just putting the program together for next year. So hope to see you at some of those.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Love to you all.